little doohickey. Greetings and salutation, fine men and women of the internet. It's the Automotive Podcast where you don't have to build cars, but it sure does help. On this episode, which is episode 26, we have Mr. Chester over here. Down below me, filling in for Sean in the third chair, is Mr. Lewis Hicks. And over here, over there, in the Celebrity Hollywood Square box is Chris Collins. He is someone we've met a couple of times through NNL East. Both last year and this year, and got on the podcast because Sean had sent over some pictures of a Alpha Models McLaren that he had built. And so the two guys down here on the bottom know each other, so if they start picking on each other through the podcast, it's probably not personal.
Never. I'm a gentleman.
So, with that being said, welcome back to everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, what's been going on in the last 2 weeks there, Mr. Chester? I understand, perhaps by watching your YouTube channel, that there's big doings in Little Chinatown over there, both metaphorically and literally.
Yeah, I opened up the SME store with Wenben and PZY models and decals. It was a great meeting I had with Wenben in Japan, and we ironed out the details. So I'm going to be the North American distributor for his decals. So you guys can save a lot of money on shipping.
International man of mystery. Traveling to Japan, meeting folks from China. Good grief. So what else has been going on?
I'm still working on that Porsche Apex Taxi. About ready to put it together, do a video.
Like I
think I want to do a Miku video to do one car before the next project shows up.
We doing one of the old ones? We doing one of the new AMGs?
No, I think I want to do the new 2025 car.
Poor Fujimi kids are so unloved. Mr. Hicks, last time we've seen you was Jersey here. Guess what? It's 2 months ago now. So what's been going on out there?
Not much. So I had to take a break from everything because I had a test for school coming. Ooh. And since then it's just review kits that I'm trying to get done.
For fine scale?
Yep. Or no, auto modeler.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I've got 2 for them that got to be done by the 30th.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a tall deed right there.
It is. I kind of got myself stuck in that one because so one of the kits is an Iceman kit that he's going to release. And originally I was just doing the box art, and then Scott at Auto Modeler wanted it as a review kit too. And I was like, well, I've already started on it, so I'm sure I can pull something off. But yeah,
I'm excited to see it. I'm sure you can't say what it is, but I'm excited to see it.
It's neat. It's definitely weird, but it's neat.
Okay.
So, my experience, people who've done review kits in the past, he could say what it is. He just would never review anything ever again. I know a few people who've been who've done the review thing, and they've decided, well, they're not really serious about it only being exclusive content, and go and post it on the interwebs, and they were kind of serious about that. They didn't appreciate you taking their free stuff and spreading it everywhere. So I asked Chris, what's up, but apparently we're literally live watching him pinstripe something here. So
no, I'm working on a slot car body for a customer of mine. that's between build models and doing some customer work for some people. That's what keeps me busy. I mean, I do have other hobbies outside of this hobby. As they say, variety is the spice of life. So, I don't do any kit reviews. I haven't, and nobody's asked me to do any of that stuff. I don't like to operate on deadlines and tight deadlines. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit of a procrastinator at times. So, yeah, I'm not ready for that responsibility.
Do you do the Lexan slot car bodies, or do you do model kit bodies?
Yeah, model kit, hard body stuff. Now, honestly, there's not a whole lot of money in the Lexan stuff, but I have all the appreciation in the world for the guys that can do that and gals. Everything's backwards, and I've seen some really, really, really good paint work in Lexan bodies. So I have a really, really deep respect for those people.
Yeah, I can't even imagine doing a backwards paint job.
I've had a few people ask me to do it, and I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to mess it up for you. So there's plenty of good guys out there that still do it. So
right.
I like the hard body stuff. I race every now and again. I was just up last week at a racetrack and seeing if I knew how to pull a trigger and hit the tree right. And it's still a little bit of work in progress. I need a little more practice. So we'll get there. It's
so
fun.
It's drag racing, I assume.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Let's see. He sent me an image here. Where did it go? Prepared as always, folks. That's key to remembering me running this podcast. Is the fact that I always have my images prepared well in advance, and then of course, why in the world would it show up on the actual share price? We have all sorts of new features for people who use like Apple phones and stuff like that. Now, I don't understand what good that's going to do me, but that was something when I logged in here. It was all like, oh, hey, you got a whole bunch of stuff. But that my browser screen. Oh, well, he had sent me an image of a bunch of different slot car stuff that was painted in addition to the stuff he was working on. But now I can't show it to you, so we're gonna.
If you'd like, I'll just, I'm sitting at my desk. I'll just kind of turn the phone and give you an idea what's on my table.
Oh, it's just very frustrating because the presenter on this thing works about 9 times out of 10, and today's the 10th time. There it is. I knew if I cursed at it, it would show up. So there's a bunch of a bunch of the in project works there.
Yeah, that's some of the stuff I just cleared last week, I believe last Thursday. So we have the Zoom On Ferrari in the back there, and then we have the PZY F40 with Golf Livery, and then we have the Camaro here in the front. That's a 3D printed body. Lots of prep work involved in that. It's always fun times. And then a Castrol GTX car, which was on my to-do list for a long time, and I actually had the owner reach out that owned that car back in the late 80s, early 90s, wanting to purchase it from me. I was like, nah, I'm not ready to let it go yet. So, but it was really cool. It was really nice of them to reach out and show interest in that. That makes you feel good when the owner of the actual car reaches out. So yeah, I mean, the slot car hobby and the modeling hobby, they run really parallel in a lot of different ways.
Yep.
A lot of the guys that paint, build, and race slot cars started in the model world at one particular point in time, either being it as a kid or a young adult. So, get to see a few of them at shows and stuff like that, and chew the fat with them and play a little catch up. So it's always good.
It's actually a little trick is going to these slot car tracks. A lot of times you can find older kits for pennies.
Cheap. Yes.
Yep.
Just missing the body, right?
Nope. They're usually
okay. Huh.
No, I mean, I can't complain though. The Ohio show was great. The guy had a bunch of $5 kits there, and I was like, told my girlfriend, I was like, I'm not gonna buy anything. I really don't need to. And here I come home with like 12 kits. She's like, I thought you said you weren't gonna buy anything. I was like, yeah, I lied. So,
He made me a deal I couldn't refuse.
well, I mean, $5 for a sealed kit's kind of hard to pass up, regardless of what it is. I mean, and being like 69 Camaros and what are they, C5, C6 Corvettes at $5? I mean, it's kind of hard to pass that stuff up.
Yep.
Especially for sealed ones, you can buy bagged ones that cost that much these days.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's a good thing, and I feel bad for the people that like build on a budget and they don't get the chance to go out and do shows, and they don't have like local flea markets or anything like that. I'm like, man, I'm very fortunate. I wish more people had the opportunity that some of us do as far as availability for lower end kits, lower end priced kits rather. So,
Yeah.
but
in my club meeting, there's always a raffle, and you get kit for $1. So,
yep,
that's awesome. We do similar stuff at our club too. I think a lot of time people just bring the stuff they don't want anymore and just throw it on the table. But but it's still good. It gives the other builders something, a variety. Our club is mostly older gentlemen. What do you think, Lewis? About 60s the average age in our club?
Yeah, probably right around that.
Yeah, Lewis is probably the youngest guy in the club. Is Kenny younger than you, or you all about the same age?
We've got a couple of those juniors that have joined recently, so
that's great. I'm not always in the loop. I live like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours away from the club, so I get there when I get there, and I'm not always privy to what the goings on are. But our club's good. It's a strong club. I'd like to see it continue in the future. Having young kids show up and participate in that, it makes me feel good. And if I can help them in any way, I gladly will.
Right. Yeah, we've got a couple of juniors in ours, and we always just give them kits. Here, build this.
Yeah, I think it's good too. I mean, Lewis and I talk a lot about what life skills you can apply by working on a model. There's a lot of things that you can learn, like just following instructions, having a sense of accomplishment after you're done building
Patience.
something. Patience, yeah, that's big thing I lacked when I was a kid, man. And you can take that stuff and apply that later on in life too. I think there's a lot of things that we don't really necessarily think about when we first get into it, and as time goes on, you're like, well, man, I learned that from building models. Like, I work in construction like Lewis does too, so your blueprints are really, really important on a lot of the jobs. So where's the first place you learn how to read blueprints? Build the model.
Right. And planning too.
Yeah.
Planning ahead.
My wife has on more than one occasion been like, you just have like a yeoman's amount of patience with stuff. You're so calm. And that's because sometime when I was about 10 years old, I was abused by little boxes of plastic. And ever since then, you throw a few of those against the wall, your mom threatens not to buy you stuff anymore. And
it's funny because my friends will be like, I can't believe you have the patience to do that, because growing up and stuff was a little high strung all the way till I was about 35. I probably tapered off at about 40. I still have my moments every now and again when things don't go my way. I did learn though that it's easier to walk away instead of wasting all that time on something that just isn't agreeing with you. So saves you money too when you do that. Then you got to start all over again.
I think I have a Porsche here that saw the bad side of Chris.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Tell us more, Lewis. Tell us more.
You can tell. It's one of those things that I had. Upscale Hobbies asked me to build one of the alpha kits, the Porsche GT3. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I was like, all right, picked it out, decided on Miami blue. I was like, all right, cool. I wasn't happy with the paint because when you see the picture of the car, like, via like Google Images and stuff like that, it gives you a little bit different look to it. Like it looked like a brighter blue. And when I sprayed the paint,
blue, right?
Yeah, when I sprayed the paint, it was more of a turquoise. And I was like, man, this isn't really what I was looking for. I didn't really want the bright blue that they offer. Right. I wanted a little bit, a little more toned down. So we're fighting an uphill battle from the get-go. Then paint laid out. I go to tape off the trim and I pulled the paint. Pulled paint in the clear. And I know why I did it. I used I think I used Splash Primer, and it's great primer. It lays too thin. It doesn't give the paint anything to grab onto. It's just lays out really smooth.
Yeah.
So I didn't think nothing of it. And then, like I said, I went to paint the trim and pulled the paint. I was like, all right, I can fix it. It's just a panel. Come back, fix it, blended it all in, go to polish it out, and I burned through the clear in the paint right down to the body. I'm like, okay. I can fix it. It's just a panel. Come back, fix it. Go to polish it again. Burn through the clear and paint again. I'm like, all right, I had enough. This just is not working for me. And the crazier part was anything I touched at that particular time went south. So I wanted to see how far a Porsche would fly. It turns out as far as you can throw it. But and after that, everything kind of leveled off. I don't know. It's like that kit was cursed. And I don't typically have stuff that fights me. But again, a learning lesson. When something starts fighting you like that, just walk away, put it away until you're ready to come back to it, if you ever want to come back to it. So I feel bad.
I feel bad because be stripped.
What's that?
Can those bodies be stripped?
I'm sure you can. Like I use 2K clear, and I'm like that's the only thing that I really struggle. If I 2K clear and it doesn't work the way I want it to, I'm just like, all right, well, I just trashed the body. I don't know what to strip resin with because typically I don't make mistakes on resin. Typically, so it just got to the point where I'm like, all right, this is the third time something or someone's trying to tell me that this just ain't meant to be. So, right. Yeah, Lewis has the remnants of it. So,
it's a good kit.
Oh, it's a great kit. It's awesome. Every one I've got. Let's see. I've built 3. That would have been the 4th, and so the first one I built was a Ferrari 458 Spider. And it needed some cleanup, which isn't a big deal. Resin kits typically need some kind of cleanup, be it flash or just a little rough spots here and there. And then I bought 2 more. I bought the Lamborghini Aventador like GT kit or the Liberty Walk wide body kit, and that was great. Then I did the McLaren, which I wanted the P1 GT, and I ended up ordering the P1, and I'm like, damn it. But the more I looked at it, I was like, yeah, okay, I'm good with this. I'm okay. And that thing just built up beautifully.
I've seen it. It's beautiful.
Yep. The tricky parts, the tail lights and the photo etch vent on the back, that was a little touch and go because the tail light's one piece. It wraps around everything and across the back of the bumper and up into the quarter panels. And I'm like, oh boy, hope I don't break this. And, kid gloves, a little bit of fidgeting and moving side to side and stuff. And it worked out. So, they get better as they go along. So I would highly recommend those kits to anybody. The PZY kit, that 40, that's very nice too. Those guys, and the great part of it is too, is they offer you things that the model car companies won't.
Right.
And I think they are reasonably priced for what they are. It being a multimedia kit, the detail on them is phenomenal, and they do really build up nice.
Thank you, Chris. So many people, when they see what I build, and they say, "You paid $160 for that kit. Oh my God, the sky's falling."
He didn't actually
Yeah,
pay anything for that kit.
Shut up, James.
Yeah, but, the thing of this, if you're getting what you pay for, like look at all the $40 kits that the U.S. companies put out, like the MPC AMT stuff that they're just continual repops from stuff that's 60 years old and plus.
Right.
They fit terribly. There's so much work to put into them. And, you go on these forums and they're like, oh, this kit's trash. This kit's trash. And there's two ways to look at it. We're model builders. We're not assemblers. We're model builders, or at least we strive to be, a lot of us. So I don't want to paint everybody into the same category. But on the flip side of that, you got to take into consideration that not everybody builds for the same reasons. And, I think club members contests, online forums and stuff like that, I think some of that gets lost in translation when people are having debates back and forth. You get these guys, I've been doing this for 40 years. And I'm like, I take that kind of stuff with a grain of salt, because I don't know what their build intentions are for. Do they just build for themselves? Do they build for like online contests? Do they build for actual contests? And I get caught up in some of that stuff too. And I'm just like, I got to stop and think about, what their intentions are. Like, not everybody builds for a contest and stuff like that. So,
Right.
but that to bring it full circle is a lot of that stuff plays into cost as well. Like a lot of contest builders will go out and spend hundreds of dollars on something. Not everybody's privileged enough to do so. So you get the old Rust-Oleum cans. I'm going to go out and buy an $8 can of Rust-Oleum. I'm going to paint 20 cars with it. And, you know how that goes.
We know how that goes.
Conversation. I don't want to delve too deep into that, but y'all know what I'm talking about and what I'm referencing. So, but I don't. I have my own feelings on things, and it's easier to have those conversations with like-minded people. Hopefully that doesn't come off too arrogant or inconsiderate, but
that's why James is here, right?
But you know what I mean? Like I'll be honest, it's the first time I'm doing this. I mean, if it was in a different setting, I might be a little more privy to explain my stance on things. But without it being said, I think you guys understand where I'm coming from. So,
Yeah,
and I don't down those people. It's I get it, but I just it's a grain of salt thing.
Right.
Well, I've often said the 40 years of experience thing often works out to you've worked somewhere with somebody who has 40 years of experience and they're the worst employee that place has. So
at times,
just because you've done something for a really long time doesn't mean you're any good at it. Just means you've stuck to it.
Okay, fair enough. You said the quiet part out loud. So, but no, I agree, man. I mean, in my trade, I see it all the time, and my subcontractors look at me and laugh, and I just tell them, say, look, when you make a mistake or you fail, it doesn't cost me anything to send you back to fix it. Like, just keep that in mind, because when I send you back, you're losing money, not me. And I don't want to see people do that, because I'm all for not having to come back if you can avoid it. And a lot of the stuff that happens is avoidable. And that, that transfers over to the hobby as well. Like, if you continue to do something and not only you, but a lot of other people have the same problem you do, maybe you should rethink what you're doing. Look at what those other people have issues with, learn from that. Because in the long run, if you're one of those people that is on a budget to build, you can learn a lot and not have to cost you a whole lot of money. So, I guess there's a strategy to it if you want to call it that.
But on that point, my number one money saving tip is Tamiya acrylic paint, Mr. Hobby leveling thinner. I can buy a 40.
I love it.
Yeah, I can buy a big bottle of that black, and it'll last for cars worth, because I cut it 100%.
The biggest pushback I get, and because I'll tell people all the time, like, buy an airbrush, get efficient with it. Like, the initial cost up front is the expensive part, but dude, you can use the acrylic paints, you can use lacquers in the jars, the Mr. Hobby or the Tamiya. You can use fingernail polish. I mean, the spastic stuff, all that type of water-based RC car paint. Like, and then you open up your color palette too. Like, your colors are endless. Like, you're not stuck with like some funky green because you bought it for one car. Now you got a can that's going to sit around for like the next 10 years till you figure out what you're going to do with it. Like,
right.
And the other thing is, airbrushes are so hard to clean. They're a pain in the butt. I use a Badger 350. Like, that's what I use. And the crazier part is I have a lot of clips gravity fed, and I don't use it. I've just learned
that Badger, huh?
I've gotten proficient with it. Like, I just, all the slot car stuff and then all the model stuff that I do, like, I've just got to the point where I can take a whole bunch of parts and, take an hour or two and spray all that stuff and just run different colors through it, and it works. So, you don't need a high-end airbrush. My setup's probably $100 or less. You just got to get good with it.
There you go.
I think Mr. Tester will agree. Airbrushing is a perishable skill. If you don't do it a lot, you lose that edge, if you want to call it that. That proficiency sort of goes away a little bit, and then you have to relearn it, and that's frustrating through these sets of parts for a week until I get my my mixing back and all that kind of thing. And if you clean your airbrush after you use it, it's not a pain in the ass to clean. It's when you leave it sit for 3 months with whatever it was caked in it, and you're chipping it out with a jackhammer.
Right, Lewis. Lewis knows a little something about that.
Yeah. 2K is really good to leave in there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There are many people in the comment section here, Chris, complimenting you on your shirt. So,
yeah, I just went to see Clutch on Saturday, man. Me and two of my friends from high school went to see Clutch, so it was a good time. That just means they got good taste in music.
Jason J. Hart Modelworks in the comments saying, I never haven't completely broken down a brush in over a year. It's not necessary to break down every single time you use it. In fact, many manufacturers recommend that you don't break it down as you're likely to do damage. And I don't think I've field stripped an airbrush ever.
Nope.
I'm not taking
unless you
push
really
all the packing bushes underneath the trigger and all that crap. I see people who do that, and I don't want to go off on a tangent here and criticize people's airbrush cleaning techniques, but it's just like, the paint goes in the top if you're using a gravity feed, right? It goes in the top and it comes out that end. There shouldn't be any paint behind the paint cup. Like, why are you taking the whole thing apart and throwing the whole thing in an ultrasonic jewelry cleaner? It's like, what were you doing with it exactly? No, don't answer that. I don't want to know.
Different strokes for different folks, man.
Pull the needle, throw some thinner through it, and call it a day.
Yep.
We're still talking about an airbrush?
Yes. Possibly, yes. Your mileage may vary. but to Chris's point about the airbrushing and budgeting, I have something I'm fiddling with in the background project wise, and it required off-white, right? Could I mix my own paint? Sure. Could I just paint it white and call it a day because no one would know the difference? Also, yes, but like I can go through ProScale and I can get the paint mixed. I got the code for $6. And if I mix that same paint with the instructions the Hasegawa gives me, it's 3 different bottles of paint. Which, if you go, unless you have a hobby shop that's well stocked,
You should have them already, James.
Yeah,
you
you'd
should
think.
have the whole
I
catalog.
have the Mia catalog. I really don't have that much Mr. Color paint, but as it is, like I don't have a hobby shop that carries Mr. Color in like the whole range. I got one that carries like the GX stuff. So I'm paying what, $4 plus shipping per bottle for 4 bottles of paint, and for 3 bottles of paint, I'm at $12 plus shipping versus the $6 to just have the thing custom mixed in the first place. Like,
right?
Yeah.
It's
You're
too
saving money. I'm like, no, I'm not saving money at all. I'm actually spending more money that way. I'm saving money by actually having the color mixed and having it be the right color in the first place.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't go out and get something I could paint a mailbox with.
Well, your loss.
$8 for a can of Rust-Oleum, dude.
Yeah, I know. Now the next 92 things I have are Robin's Egg Blue or Park Green.
Yeah. Or Pretty in Pink.
Well, it takes care of the GT Porsche anyway. So, Chris, how did you get started in the hobby? Is something goes back to your childhood, or is this
Yes.
Like you picked it up later in life?
No, so I grew up in the city of Reading, and my dad as a kid and his friends used to race models in the alleys. Like we had a dirt track outside the city, and a lot of the guys, a lot of the guys my dad's age used to build replicas of the cars that used to race out there and then race them down the alley. So this whole thing was probably like a 25 or a 30-year long thing, passed down from childhood to childhood, so to speak. And so I was like, I wanted to race. I was like 8, and a bunch of neighborhood kids get together on Saturdays and race in the summertime. Something to keep us out of trouble. And I was like, Dad, can you help me build a car? He's like, yeah. So that process took about 2 years of me pulling the car in and out of the closet, looking at it, going, man, I don't know what I'm doing here, this, that, and the third. So I ended up giving it to one of the kids in the neighborhood and just absolutely destroyed it. Made it look like Joe Dirt's car, like cut the roof off of it, jacked it all up. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And he's like, you asked me to build it for you. I was like, yeah. I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, well, this is what I thought you wanted. I was like, no. And then I just started building my own stuff from there. And once I got to be about like 20 is when I really got into building models. Went to a model contest that we had that was a couple miles away from the house, and I ended up meeting Marcus Cruz. I don't know if you know who that is. I'm sure you do. And I talked to him, and I bust his ass to this day. I'm like, yeah, I was that little punk kid that came up to you. He's like, hey man, you were like kind of shooing me away, and he laughs every time I say it because that's not him at all. It's just not. And I sat there and I was bugging him. It's right when the Tamiya R34 Skyline came out. To me, that kit was just badass. And he built it and he brought it and it looked beautiful. And I'm just bugging the shit out of him. And I ended up joining the club that he was in. So I was like, I got great reference. And it just kind of took off from there. We joke around. He's like, the students become better than the master and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, I can't take anything away from Marcus because Marcus is he's an excellent builder and he will help you with whatever you need. He will break it down for you in the simplest terms to help you out. So, having guys like that in the club, and I wish more of the guys were still there, they're not there and for various reasons anymore, but that was a really big thing for me to keep me involved in the hobby. Plus, when I was a little younger, I was a little wild man and drank a lot. And, the girlfriend at the time was like, oh, all you do is drink. You're always out. Da, 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 da. So that her giving me that kind of a wake up call, she at least knew where I was, what I was doing, and where my money was going, and I stuck with it, and it's been a very fulfilling thing for me in my life. Some balance, some distraction, some positive distraction, and then when you start traveling outside the state and you get to meet different people and they talk about their projects, your projects, you're swapping information and helping each other out as far as parts and stuff goes. Like it's a very good thing to be involved with, and I'm glad that I'm part of that. I think I met Lewis about 3 years ago. I don't remember you much as a junior at the club.
Yeah, I say I remember you, but I guess actually like talking and hanging out was probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah. So, I was happy to see younger guys at our club that had talent and took it seriously. Because my opinion, I'm going to speak freely here. I think a lot of the guys in our club are a little. Is jealous the right word, Lewis?
I'd say complacent. They're very comfortable with how they build, but then they get mad if they don't kind of like they don't want to progress. They're just they're comfortable where they're at.
I think there's that like they put us like in a category, and I'm like, they said they wanted it. Oh, they did?
Yeah, they wanted an advanced builders class.
Which it's a club, it's a model car club. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I sat there and explained stuff to people how I did things. Lewis is taking time and explain things, how we do things. And I just said to Lewis, I was like, when I tell people something, well, they ask me something and I give them details, and like I know not everybody's going to retain everything because it's a lot of information given all at once, and I get that. But if I'm going to do that, like I want to see you guys try. If you're having issues, like Facebook, I have a Facebook account, so just send me a message if you want. I'll give you my phone number. I want to see you progress and get better as a builder.
right.
I'm never satisfied because I always think I can do better, which to me is an also positive part of this hobby. It gives you goals to shoot for. I don't think everybody has that. There's just, man, I get some paint and a model kit and I'll throw it together. And then you get other guys that come in there and take it a little more seriously. And they're like, oh, well, I can't build like that. Who says you can't? What's stopping you?
Exactly.
I wish more people would have that outlook. They get easily intimidated. And I'm like, there's nothing to be intimidated about, just have fun, because ain't that what the hobby's for? Like an escape from everything, to have fun and get a little creative. So
it doesn't help. We had to chase like Cruz and Bill Geary down.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having Bill and Marcos in the same club, man.
That's great.
That's the tip of the
well,
iceberg.
I mean, to compete with them, to think that you're competing with them, that would be rough.
Yeah, but I mean, that's something to shoot for. Like if you take somebody like that, like Bill Gary's on another level. Like he's just absolutely on another level. But traveling around shows, like I've talked to Clay Kemp. I wouldn't say I'm like friends with him or anything like that. I'm friendly. If I reach out to him, he responds in a respectful manner. He'll help you out. He'll give you guidance. He'll let you know where you got stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hobby needs people like that. Bob Downey, he's another one. Bob Downey is one of the nicest guys you'll ever talk to, and he'll talk your ear off. So
can't wait to get him on the show, right, James?
Yep.
Dude,
I've been the unwilling victim of Bob Downey on many occasions, because he will just go and go and go.
He's a good dude, man. Like a lot of those guys down in Acme are good dudes. I mean, there's Vince Labasco. He's another one. He's another really, really good builder that I looked up to and still do. Like I hold him in a high regard. Guy's a good builder and he's funny to talk to. It's good to bullshit with him, and I get to see him probably three or four times a year at different shows. Unfortunately, there's been some guys that have passed that are no longer with us that are excellent builders, and I miss seeing them. It's there's a camaraderie there. For the most part, there are some people in the hobby that probably a little bit more arrogant than they should be. And I don't know why. Especially when people look up to them as a builder and they're asking them for advice, and you just kind of shit all over them. I'm like, what's that doing for you? What's that doing for the hobby? If somebody admires what you're doing and they're reaching out to ask you for things, and you're just kind of shitting on them, it's not good. Unfortunately, it's part of it. You get that everywhere. I'd like to see that stuff change, but it is what it is. People are who they are.
Right.
I think there's a bit of the aura that people put off, because like I said, Bob Downey, Mark Jones, Bill, Rainy Dare, all these people. The people that are really, really, really good tend to be the nicest people that you run into. Most helpful people that you run into. They give you the shirt off your back kind of people, and then there's a sub tier underneath that have garnered some sort of internet fame, be it YouTube, Instagram, or whatever it is, and they have a little bit of a stink about themselves that they don't smell personally. And okay, this attitude doesn't really justify the skill doesn't necessarily justify the attitude, perhaps. But the better way to put that.
Yes.
It was without turning into a giant negative, Nancy thing. Hey, I'll tell you exactly why they're the way they are, because the social media is the way it is. A lot of people get a lot of smoke blown up their backside about how great they are, because positivity is everything. You can't critique anything on the internet, and all of a sudden they've got this giant ego that they didn't earn, because
you're definitely on to something, and it's crazy, because I'm actually kind of talking about one particular person that I've known for a long period of time. I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but he there was a guy that was asking him some questions about a NASCAR build of his and stuff like that, and he's one of those Instagram types that needs all the attention, and he can't really handle criticism, being it constructive or however you want to look at it.
Right.
And we're all egotists to a degree. I mean, I'm not going to like what somebody says either, but I'm going to stop and sit there and think, I'm like, well, maybe they're right, and then go back and look at what we're talking about here, and look at what I can correct. But so dude asked him a question, and he just kind of gave him a not so positive response, and then decided to write him an essay about, this is art, this is plagiarism, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, dude, it's a model. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, it's a model. Like, if he's trying to recreate something you did, you should hold that as like a positive. Like, he admires what you do that much that he wants to copy you. What's the saying? Shit. Something about representation is the most sincere form of flattery.
We get you.
And you can't decipher that, and you get an ego and want to condemn a guy for trying to copy what you did. You should wear that as a badge. To me, that means something. But not everybody thinks that way. So it's a shame, but it is what it is. And I don't talk to the guy anymore because he got mad about what I said, and it is what it is. I mean, I called it how I saw it, and so there it is.
He wasn't looking for real criticism.
Well, no, I it was as a friend. I'm like, and then he just started getting even shittier. So I was like, okay, I'll just drop the hammer on you. I'm like, he's a great builder. He really is. But like all of us, we could always get better. You know, you can't. I think that internet stuff kind of it gives you a false sense of reality to a degree, because everybody is blowing smoke. Well, not everybody, but you know, a lot of people are just like, "Oh my God, that's awesome! That's awesome!" Like, for instance, there's a few people that I hold that I hold at the highest regard in this hobby, because you know, you can hide a lot of stuff with pictures, lighting, angle, this, that, and the other thing. But when you actually get to see what they build in person, and it's as good or better than what the pictures are, that's saying something. Like that to me is just like holy, you know what I mean? Like, and Clay Kemp's one of those guys. Randy Durr's one of those guys.
Jim Drew.
Yeah, Jim Drew, one of those guys. Mark Batson, he's another one that just built some incredibly awesome stuff. Real nice and clean. Some of it's simple, some of it's very detailed, but he does it very well. You know, those are the guys that I want to get as close to as I can. So, but some people think they're already there.
I am not a good builder. I try to be a good builder, but I'm not a good builder. I still get glue on windows. I still can't do things, but I'm trying. But
Well, that's what it matters.
A lot of people think that I'm super builder, but I'm not. I really am not.
I guess the only thing I can really say to that is, I mean, you know your strengths and your weaknesses, your strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, you have something to build on. You know,
Right.
my biggest weakness on it builds the interior. Like I just don't spend enough time in an interior of a build because I'm like, well, you don't really see it. You know what I mean? So it's like, why do all the detail work in there? But as you see people doing the detail, and I'm like, man, I'm way off. Like the engine compartment and the paint and the stuff like that, I'm usually pretty good with, but I just don't give enough attention to the interiors, and that's something I need to work on. So, but knowing your strengths and weaknesses and stuff is a good starting point to make improvements.
James, who was the guest? Mike that used to do interiors, and he used to paint the seats confetti pattern. Who was that?
Oh,
Mike North that we had on?
Yes, Mike North. Mike
Yep.
North would hand paint the confetti pattern on his interior seats.
That's nuts.
Mike's been quiet. He bought himself a Matco tool truck and has been trying to get that off the ground. So he's had a lot of time in his life for much anything.
Yeah, that's an investment
Milking all the mechanics.
I actually forgot about it until you just mentioned it. I haven't seen him post in a while. That explains it.
Yeah, he was real active there, but then he was a mechanic and worked in a shop and all that stuff, and he decided to make the leap onto the tool sales side of things, and he got himself a truck and all that, and so that's taken up all his time, all his spare time, and all his weekends, everything else. God bless him.
I get to meet him in person. He was in town, so I met him for dinner.
Yeah, that's right. He was.
His wife.
I was trying to get him to come to the show that weekend, but they had to fly out. Okay, we're down around where the Plastic Undercover show in Akron is held, to pick up his tool truck, or at least get the training for it that week right beforehand. And I was like, "Oh man, you're right there, man. You got to come to the show. Now we're flying out early." I'm like, "Oh, come on, man."
Yeah.
I mean, I've met him in person. I've met him in person. He came down to Vegas the year the Nats were in Vegas with 2021, the year after COVID. So, but yeah, I poked him the other day just about the flyer that I sent you guys with all the Ferraris that Alpha Model's doing in the near future, and I was like, "Come on, man, there gotta be something on this list that you want." And he was like, "I have no time for anything right now," because he also like me and my wife plays World of Warcraft And I was like, that a lot. And it was like, no wow time, no model time, no nothing time. I said, well, I wish you much success in getting in with the business, but sucks when real life takes away all your fun time.
Well, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I get what you're saying, Chris, about the interiors, though. If you can't see it, why bother? I'm kind of the same with chassis.
Yeah. So there was I think the last contest we went to was like 3 or 4 of us, and we were sitting around talking about chassis and like tires and stuff like that. And Terry from our club was talking about one of the other guys. He's like, how'd you get it to sit that low? He's like, I just chopped all the suspension part off and just glued the tires up underneath the fenders. So he's like, who's going to see it? He's like, who's going to see it? I'm like, I'm guilty of that. I've done that a few times. You know, you can't get the ride height just right with the stock suspension. And you're like, well, I'm really not going to display the bottom of the kit or the build. So let's go this direction. And it works as long as nobody picks it up, you know. But you know, I look at it as, you know, model building's like the art of illusion. You know, you're trying to emulate something, you know, whether it's something in your mind or, you know, an exact replica or whatever the case may be. That's the goal. You're trying to emulate something, and sometimes you got to get a little creative and cut corners to make it work. So you know, there are a lot of kits out there that have poor ride heights on them. You know, you look at the real car and then you look at the model and you're like, why does it look like a monster truck? A lot of the NASCAR stuff, you know, that was my big thing for a long time. And then, you know, I got some of these higher end kits and stuff, Model Factory Hero. I was like, man, I can't do the, you know, the $200 builds and stuff. I don't feel like my skills are good enough. And, you know, you build enough of these, you get tired of them, and you got to mess with them a little bit. And then you go get some of the higher end stuff that's actually engineered a little bit better. I say that half jokingly because a few of the Model Factory Hero kits I had were kind of rough. So
yeah, you gotta own that one. Really get into it.
Yeah. So you know, that's one of the tricky parts. So then with some of the NASCAR stuff, you got to cut the pins and then set them in there, and so you get the ride height just right. Because there are some that just you can't do it stock right out of the box because it'll look like you're ready to go off road. And so and you know, even some of the street kits. I did a Revell 69 Nova, and I'm like, man, is this right? Is this right? And I kept looking at the car, looking at the model, looking at the car. I'm like, hey, it's pretty close. I'll just let it ride. You know, it was a good. I was happy with the build. But you know, just some of those things you're gonna need to make the adjustments and hide some things here and there. So,
right,
get creative.
I've often felt the Revell must base all of vehicles off of pictures they took of the cars with the bump stop.
Maybe. Maybe.
Oh, I'm back. So like Revell, you know, has gotten every piece of category design they've ever gotten is based on the car at the ride height with the bump stops in it that they put in. Well, you put them on the car transport because the car is not that high in real life.
Yeah.
You've seen every now and then you'll find a picture like at a car show of a Camaro that's like looks like it's about ready to go forward in a river. You know, like that vehicle never had the bump stops taken out of the springs before they rolled it out onto the floor. But if you've seen a picture of the real car, you know it's not that. I don't know. You go off on a whole tangent. Somebody was just doing a before they build video of. Oh, I can't even remember what Revell kit it was now. And they said, oh, it has screws in it. Why does it have screws in it? So it's not screws. They're the metal pins that you use to mount the wheels with. I said, sometime 40, 50 years ago, the entire country of Japan decided polycaps are the way we're going to mount tires from here on out. For everyone's going to use this little vinyl donut. The U.S. manufacturers decided last week it's going to be this way. Next week, it's going to be the other way. And then the following week, we're going to do something else. Not only is there no uniformity across the companies, but there's no uniformity within the company at all. Like,
Right.
this Revell kit, it uses metal pins. This one doesn't. This one uses, if it's a Revell of Germany, it's got that side wheel mounting thing that several of the ones have had lately. It's like, just why? Why can't you guys just come to a consensus of how you design something and how it goes together? It's just, to say nothing of the wheels and tires with the giant, truck sidewalls on all the tires. But anyway.
Phone's getting ready to die.
Yeah. Just gotta, I know I'm so entertaining here. I don't want to disappoint you guys. My phone, my phone dies.
So today I sent a video over to James Duff. One of my favorite Japanese builders on YouTube was building the Tamiya TS50, and it's a very difficult kit in that it needs so much masking and painting and careful prep. And this kit's been on my shelf for, I don't know, 10 years because I'm afraid to build it, just because. But after watching the video, I think I want to try it.
Go for it.
Yep.
Go for it.
I watched the whole video, and the guy has English subtitles, and the amount of times he called the body building, decaling, prepping process torture.
That's James's favorite part, so he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the biggest issue with that kit is, at least within the confines of building it, is that if you want to do, I guess, sort of what has become, I'm going to use air quotes here, the standard for contest modeling, which is that you clear coat over the decals, then you are going to have to partially assemble it dry, because a lot of those decals cover multiple panels sometimes, and you have to cut it, obviously, to get it all back apart again so that you could clear it with whatever you're clearing it with, to then put it all back together in the end. If you put the whole thing together and got the body, unified as one piece, and then decaled it at the end and didn't, clear coat it, you wouldn't, you still have to cut on body panels, but it wouldn't be nearly the process that it is to, be able to take it back apart to clear coat it, because you can't. There's no way to that. It's a lot like the McLaren Senna and the the T50, the Gordon Murray car, where the body's in 18 pieces, and
Right.
There's no way to put that on a paint stand and paint it all at once.
Yeah,
because it doesn't, because everything attaches to the space frame of the kit. So,
but yeah, I think I want to tackle it.
Go for it. I have faith in you. You got.
No
Let's
2K
see.
on that one, because
I
think it would make it too thick and it wouldn't fit. So I have to use lacquer.
Pull off the clear gull wing.
You got 10 months till the next NNL East. I have faith. You can get it done.
And no one will watch it on YouTube. That's for sure. Not on my channel.
I don't know. That guy had 14,000 views on that video. You're just imitate that. Imitation, the sincerest form of flattery. Just remake his thing. I don't know where you're gonna find the Japanese
voice
subtitles. But. Oh, I what I wanted. I bought. What
did you buy?
Because we were talking, Mr. Chester and I were talking about this. This is a newest Hasegawa release. It's a 2002 BMW with quote unquote big bumper, right? Which sounds great name for a band if anybody ever wants to make like a progressive rock band. Hey, coming to the stage now, big bumper. The gag with this one is that all of the late model parts, which are the big park bumpers in here, are 3D printed. And so they've included it's a little baggie of 3D printed parts, right? I don't know who, because like I told Mr. Chester, this is not the worst 3D printed pieces I've ever seen. Let me get this down here so we can all look at it. It's not the worst 3D printed parts that I've ever seen, but it's also a uniquely designed thing here.
Rudder, yeah.
My wife bought me one of those pointers, like the guys in the home inspections use. So this is fantastic. So the front bumper and the back bumper are on here with all the normal like struts that you get on 3D printed, but they're also like this entire third step, if you could see it, like there's a bumper, then there's a chrome part. This whole back part of this, yeah, that's part of the dunnage. It's not part of the bumper. So not only do you have to cut off the mouth, you have to shave off that entire, like, I don't know, 2 millimeters worth of extra material that's on that. Okay, great. Then these parts in here, all of these parts down in here, they're all the parking lamps and the side markers. So
it should be clear.
Yeah, well, yeah, clear, but yeah. So I'm not incompetent. I know how to sort of kind of fix that, but like, why is that choice made? Like, why was that not done in again a clear resin or something like that? They did go ahead and let's see which side is this. Yeah, this side. It has parts numbers on it, right? Oops, that's upside down to you guys. It has parts numbers on it, so you can kind of sort of see that there's a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and stuff like that on there. But I don't know.
I'm still just trying to figure out how they supported that. Are there support marks on the frame?
There's striations on this side, which is fine because this is actually the bottom, right? So like if you put the bumpers on, they'd be on the bottom of the car. You're not going to see it as much. But yeah, I don't know exactly how this was.
And what's with the holes? Did they? Maybe that's
I don't know.
cast.
I guess to say, I guess they decided to make it lighter for transport, or maybe like the old gag of every bridge is a series of triangles. That makes it stronger. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is because it's like it's let's see here, front bumper. This thing in here is the license plate surround. Like the actual thing goes around the license plate bracket in the back. Like the side things would be the lights for the license plate bracket, and then that's a side marker. That's a side marker because the kit adds side markers, and then these ones down here are the front turn signals, and then this thing down here is actually the piece of the rear trim. Huh. And then like I said, these bumpers, like the whole thing that this bumper attaches to, these mounts, like that whole thing has to be shaved off because you're not using that part of it. Like,
interesting.
They've cleaned this thing up. Like you can't tell exactly how it was put on per se, but it's not. They didn't just take it apart and clean it all up. It's
yeah.
Like I said, it's got pretty bad layer lines, or not layer lines, but striations on the one side. But again, that's the bottom, so you're not going to see it anyway. It's going to need cleaned up because it's resin, but it's an odd choice. I don't know why you wouldn't just make that out of plastic.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, they've got the budget.
Because like, yeah, but it's still great though to see a regular kit using 3D parts. I mean, I think that's going to be the future of the modeling world in a lot of different ways. I mean, we're practically already there now.
I'll say this light is what I was talking about. It's like that's resin. This is resin. This light back here is resin. And if you look at the I'm trying to do this so I can see this piece of trim that's on the back part of the fender here. That's that little flat part. And
did they fix the door cards yet?
No, it's still as here. We have 3 Pennsylvania guys and an Ohio guy on here. Here's something your grandma used to call it, right? An oleo. Remember when your grandma used to call not real butter oleo?
Nope.
Still an oleo container. I think oleo was a brand of margarine back in the day, but yeah, it's still the same. Butter tub.
Butter dish.
It's I can't believe it's not butter tub. You'd have just as much detail putting a margarine container in there in the dashboard.
Couple of seats, yeah. Toss them in there.
So, Chris, what would you say is sort of, I don't know if your trademark's really the way I want to put that, but like, what's your like sort of favorite type of model to build?
Oh, dude.
You talked about NASCAR being a thing for a while, but like, overall, you have a very wide variety from what I've seen.
I've always been a Porsche guy. Always. Crazy part of it is I only have one Porsche built. I have several Ferraris though. So I guess it's kind of a toss up between Ferrari. I mean, I don't necessarily have one particular thing. I'm more geared towards racing, but I have a huge soft spot in my heart for mid to late 60 muscle cars and to early 70 muscle cars. I do. My brother's 6 years older than me. His first, well, I shouldn't say his first car, but his first true car that he bought himself was a 71 Chevelle with a 327 in it. And I'm like, we're doing 120 miles an hour down the highway, and I'm sitting in the back seat as a 12-year-old going, holy shit, this is cool. So I do have a really, really big soft spot for muscle cars. But my choice would probably be any round stuff. The GT cars I really, really like. I do build a wide variety of things. I have an 87 Firebird GTA sitting here on my table that I have yet to finish, and I'm about 3/4 of the way done with it. Fun part is I'm going to do all the wiring and stuff underneath the hood. Great part is I actually have an 86 Firebird as reference. So it'll be a lot easier to just go out there and pop the hood and go, all right, cool. Now I know where everything goes. But I don't really have a one particular favorite thing. I'm just like, all right, this is cool. I'm going to build this. I know it's kind of a generic answer, but that's where I'm at. I mean, I did grow up on dirt track racing. Sprint cars are another subject matter that's close to me. I have a few of them sitting here. I have one that I've been working on for probably the last 3 years. Is just kind of sitting there with the frame and the body work done. And I have a Kyle Larson car in the works somewhere down the road. That might be 3 or 4 years till I get to that. But yep, there you go. That car there is a car Sammy Swindell ran at Syracuse in 1994. He didn't make it past the green. I think the wing supports broke on it and folded the top wing back off the car and just junked it. So it's a shame because it's a good looking car. One of these days I'll get this finished. That's been sitting on my table now for about 3 years.
What's stopping it from being built?
All the other projects I'm working on.
Oh, okay. All right. So nothing, not like I don't know how to do this, so I'm waiting to learn how to do that.
Now, so one of the things that was kind of holding up the project is there's a gentleman, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dirt Modeler at all. He does a lot of, he did. He did a lot of like dirt late model stuff and sprint car stuff like bird cages and some suspension parts, motor plates, seats, like really cool photo etched Kirky seats. So I tried to track one of those Kirky seats down. I have one of those Kirky seats and it's badass. And this guy's no longer in business, I don't believe. I would really love to find somebody that does photo etch stuff because I'd like to have a few more of those done. Because I'm kind of like hanging on to it, but if I can find somebody that's able to do that, I'd be all about it. But it's hard to find reference material for this car too, because there's very few pictures available.
Right.
Luckily, I know a few guys from the slot car world that the gentleman used to work on magnetos for sprint cars, and he used to travel around the country with sprint car teams and stuff like that. So he's got some good reference for me, and he sent me a bunch of stuff. So that was a huge help. So the slot car hobby sometimes comes in handy for other things outside of just slot cars. So But one day we'll get it done. I was trying to see if I could squeeze that in for the NNL South or the Acme show, but I have too much. And there's the Firebird. Those wheels, I don't know if you guys ever seen the kit. The kit wheels are just absolute trash. One of our club members, I said, "Hey Kenny, do you think you could print these wheels off for me?" He's like, "Sure." Like, all right, cool. So the wheels are 3D printed and they're absolutely fantastic. And I give him all the credit in the world for doing so. That hopefully someday that car gets done soon. I might be able to squeeze that in for the Acme show. It's about 3/4 of the way done. But
Very cool.
yeah. And he actually printed me some 1/43 scale wheels and tires too. Lewis is a recipient of one of those. So growing up as a kid, one of my favorite models was the Roush Racing GTO Mustangs. I just thought those cars were awesome. So went down to the Acme show, I think 3 years ago, and there's a guy that had a whole bunch of 1/43 stuff on the table. And he had the Motorcraft Mustang GTO car, and I'm like, I want one of those. And I asked the guy, he's like, dude, I bought this like 10 years ago. You know, they're really hard to find. And my buddy Lewis here was nice enough to go, yo, I found one. Screenshots it, sends it over to me. Ended up paying $160 for a 1/43 starter Mustang.
Hey, you're not allowed to act like that.
Why?
Yeah, I know.
But
Sorry.
the saving grace is, so with the slot car stuff, I've mastered some hoods and some bodies and stuff like that, and I have a resin caster that lives probably about an hour away from me, hour and 15 minutes away from me, and he does all my resin casting. So I took it up to him. I said, "Hey man, can you cast these for me?" He's like, "Sure." So the initial cost was whatever it was, but I'm like, "All right, cool. Now I have a source for all these Mustangs. I have to make some adjustments here and there." So I went to Ken. I didn't like the wheels because they're like metal wheels, and then you give you, I think, some cheesy photo etch inserts for the wheels and stuff like that. And I'm like, nah, I'm not really gonna like it. It's not gonna look right. So I asked Ken. I said, hey, can you print these out in 1/43? And I gave him the wheels and the tires and stuff like that. And he prints the 1/43 out, and they look just as good as the 1/24 stuff does. So
Printer doesn't care. It's like, all right, yeah, I'll do it.
it depends on the printer though. Like there's some guys that print some really nice stuff, and there's guys that print some really rough stuff. Bill Geary's come to our club a few times with some of the stuff that he's printed. You need very little prep work with stuff that he does. And then I've seen guys that print stuff and the side of the car is like all distorted, and you can see all the print lines and where the body, the two parts of the body came together. And I'm like, what do you want me to do with this? I have a Mercury Mercor body that was just like that. And I paid a decent amount of money for it. And the guy took it upon himself to clean up the body because it was printed really bad. And he's like, yeah, still need to work on that. Like, I'm the type of person, if I want something and you can give me a good product, I'll pay you for it. I don't care. If I want it that bad, I will pay for it. Hence $160 for a 1/43 starter, Mustang that, back in the day was $20.
Right.
So, I do like the 3D printed world, and there are guys that just are way better than others. I have some Shapeways stuff. I don't know if you guys have ever dealt with Shapeways. It depends on what material you use. But a lot of the bodies, they're really, really rough. I gotta prime the shit out of them. And I was making fun of people using Rust-Oleum and all that stuff earlier. That's what I use to prime the bodies because it's cheap and I can just lay it on thick, and it makes my job a lot easier and gets the body smoother a lot quicker. So yes, I do use Rust-Oleum from time to time, but it's definitely not my go-to primer or paint or anything like that. I just no, thank you.
Shapeways went bankrupt for a reason. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Actually, they're coming. They're making a comeback. I've
Yeah.
gotten parts from there that are really good, but it all depends on who did the file, and again the
Okay.
material.
I
One of the
hope so.
guys. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There was a guy on Shapeways that had some Mopar parts, a 68 GTX grill and tail panel that I missed out on because I didn't order it. But yeah, it was on Shapeways.
Yeah, I mean it all depends. I mean, I've gotten some really good motor parts, like they do that like almost a clear opaque material
Mhm.
that's really easy to sand and really easy to work with and paint. And then you get some of the bodies that are just absolutely brutal, and you got to prime the shit out of them. And it's a lot of work, and you can't sand on them because it's like a nylon type material, and it just kind of rolls up on you, and it
Oh,
gets a little like fuzzy and hairy. So you gotta be careful with that. But some of the other parts are just fantastic off there, and I still have a few of them. But yeah, I tend to agree. I think one of in my opinion, anyways, on the Shapeway stuff is with people being able to go out and buy printers for $150 to $200 and print their own stuff off. Why even bother? You know what I mean?
right.
Why pay a service, pay premium for that service, and then have to wait 4 to 6 weeks to get your stuff. So when you can just print it off in like 12 hours, you're good to go. Set it overnight, you're good to go. Um, but I'm very happy that this hobby is expanding the way it is, and the opportunity to get things that we could never get 20 years ago exists today. So I look forward to seeing where it's going to go in the future. Hopefully things don't get too crazy and Skynet takes over and all that type of shit.
We're not too far off. I was reading an article the other day that some company was doing AI testing, and part of the testing of these various AI platforms was that after a certain number of commands and prompts, it would be prompted to shut itself off. And I'm getting some sort of weird feedback. After the prompts were given to shut off, the AI refused to do it. It refused to shut itself off.
Yeah, that's a problem. It's scary. It's funny because my nephew and I, we went to play hockey a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about this AI stuff because he's he started with his father. My brother owns a electrical business, and I told him, I said, it's a good trade to be in, and the world's always going to need an electrician. And we got to talking about this AI stuff. He's like, this AI stuff's really crazy. He goes, I don't know what to think. I said, you know what? I said, you ever seen the movie Terminator 1 and 2? He's like, no. I said, you need to go watch Terminator 1 and 2. You'll understand what I'm talking about. And he just kind of laughed at me. He said, no, go ahead, man. Go watch it. So I thought it was kind of cool, 19-year-old kid, just sitting there being aware of the future, the potential future, and how things might play out. I thought that was really cool, and him being in tune with things. So that made me smile. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I get worried myself. I'm like, I don't have any Alexa in my house or any stuff like that. I don't need any of that noise.
Nope.
So, Lewis, did you finish that Miata that I printed for you?
I haven't. That and one of the PZY kits will be the next two that I start once these review kits are done.
Okay.
Yeah. I kind of test fit some stuff, and then I remembered how I like to break stuff on the first one when I was test fitting. So I had to put it away.
Yeah, that one, those kits are snapped together, so you can like put it together once and then that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or break off all the tabs and glue it.
Yeah, it's the hood on that in particular. Once it's in there, good luck.
Which
color are you
kit's
gonna
that?
be painting that one?
Do what?
What color?
Which
Chris.
which kit are you talking about, Lewis?
That tuned Miata.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
and Mr. Tester, you sound like an alien. Your
sorry.
feet, yeah, your mic is feeding back.
What color were you going to paint it?
It's gonna be white.
And now you're feeding back being fire.
At the Bob Downey gave me a kit that he had built, and he wanted my black Miata, but it was already spoken for. So that's what I got that one for, is to eventually give it to him.
I say ding, 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 ding. We'll play the girl from Ipanema here.
Housekeeping.
I said my wife's banging on the wall upstairs, telling my kid to go to bed. We're waiting. We're waiting.
Forgive me. All right, say something.
Yeah, your mic is still jacked up though. That's the problem. You're like,
Skynet right here.
I was gonna say no, Mr. Chester's just gonna sit there and listen, I guess. I was like, all right, Chris. So let's see here. I got a couple more things that you've shared with me that are projects you have coming up for Acme. You have this Snickers
Hopefully.
NASCAR.
Yeah, I've been working on that for probably 4 years too. So, it's you fall in and out of love with a project. It's nice to go to these shows because it gives you motivation to get back on projects. You're like, man, one of the greatest parts about going to a show is you never know what you're gonna see. You never know who's gonna be there. You never know what you're gonna see. And I like walking in and just be like, oh wow, it's incredible. Now everything on here is painted. The orange, the white, the brown, all that stuff's painted. Like they give you the decals with the decal sheet.
Yeah.
The decals are 30. What are we at? 33 years old. So there's no way I'm going to use the white decals on that. So I sat here and I taped it all off and painted it, and very happy with the way it came out. It should be fluorescent red, not fluorescent orange, but we're pretty close. The wheels and the tires they're 3D printed. They're from Scale Race Car Online, a company over in somewhere in Europe, and his 3D printed stuff is absolutely amazing, like amazing. The only thing you have to clean up on those is the back of the tire, because they have, the where the pins, the print
Sitting on the
pins meet.
floor.
Yep, that's it, and they're very faint. It's I'm just absolutely amazed. That's how clean his parts are. I've got so much stuff into this, so much time, and this one's about 3/4 of the way done. I'm kind of dragging my feet here a little bit because now I get to do all the aluminum crush panels, and I'm afraid to cut that out, and I keep balking on that. But I mean, that's in the suspension, I got my R&B motion parts here. I got some Jay's Modeling Garage 3D printed stuff. I got time, but I don't have the motivation, but I don't have that much time. So I got to get moving on that. hopefully there's enough time. Like I was telling you in text that I got like 6 things I want to get done for the Acme show. If I get 3 of them done, I'll be happy. The F40 is probably going to be a little tricky. The Zoom on Ferrari F50 GT, it shouldn't be too bad because it's basically a curbside kit.
Right.
You're not going to see a whole lot. There is a test version. It was advertised as a Model Factory Hero. It was an old resin kit from like, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago. And it was really crude. And I told Lewis I'd give it to him. But I paid a pretty penny for that because I had to have it and I had to have it. And then, much like the Alpha models, the front window didn't uh, it didn't fit the curve to the window opening. So I just kind of made it work and got a little frustrated with it, and wasn't happy with the end result. So the Zoom on body came out, and I was like, "Yep, okay, I'm going to do that." And there's a test version where the top part of the body is gloss red, and then the front part, and then the I don't want to say the rockers, but the bottom part of the body's like matte black, and it's a really nice contrast because you got the gloss on the top, and then you got the matte black on the front and then the back of it. So that's the version I'm going to do, and I don't know how much I'd like to do some of the electronic boxes in there and wire them up. It shouldn't be terribly hard. That car is another one that's kind of tricky to find reference material for. It looks like a lot of the stuff in the interior is carbon fiber. But again, I don't know which one's the test version, which one's the road race version, so to speak. But if I can get 3 or 4 projects done for that, I'll be happy. I live a kind of busy lifestyle, traveling and stuff like that, which kind of takes it away from building time. And some days you come home from work and you're just like, I'm fried. I don't want to deal with anything. I just want to sit around and watch TV. So
you also
we'll
sent
see.
you sent me this one, which while I'm not a drag racing guy, I can appreciate the fact that there's a lot going on here in terms of involvement.
Yep. A lot of aftermarket stuff, a lot of 3D printed stuff. I have stuff from Dancing Bear. Dancing Bear did my wheels. I got a lot of stuff from ProTech, Ted's Modeling Marketplace, Future Attraction, Detail Master, some 3D printed stuff from Jay's Model Garage. I'm going to use like the brake booster from that. There's a few other things I need to track down on that. It's going to have R&B motion coilover shocks. I wanted to get done the front suspension this week, like where to mount the coilover shocks on that, and then the A-arms. I think I got them right where I need them, but that's going to be R&B motion rod ends and aluminum rod or stainless steel rod. And then, I don't know if I'm going to go with R&B motion coilovers or Future Attraction. I have both. Hopefully I can use which one is the easiest.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna let you know RB Motion's open back up.
Yeah, no, I have enough of his stuff right now to finish his product. I talked to him when we were at the Columbus show, and I think he said like April, or was it June? No, wait, I'm sorry, it was June. I think he said the beginning of June he was going to open back up, but I have enough parts here to finish the car. The only thing I need is a ignition box, either an MSD or a Mallory ignition box for the car, and everything else is good. It's just I need to find a time to sit down and do it. But yeah, there's a lot going on here. We'll see. I think the carbs I have on it are a little bit too small because I want to be able to run the fuel lines and then get them hooked up to the fuel block and then do the shit. Damn it. The throttle linkage. So I just need to make sure that I have enough meat there that I can attach all this stuff to. And I think these might be a little bit small for what I need to do. So a lot here, a lot involved. I did change some things on that. The front down tubes, I changed those to get it a little bit neater and cleaner to open it up. I was gonna cut the bumper and the trunk lid off to expose the like fuel cell and the battery and all that, but I got a little overzealous and plastic welded everything together. So I'm like, I got this much work into the body. I don't want to destroy what I already have. So we'll make it work. I think the wing struts and the chute will make up for that. Plus, it saves me a little detail work in the trunk area. So maybe next time I'll think about it and plan it out a little bit better and cut all that stuff out first. The next pro stock project I have in mind is Larry Morgan's GTX Castrol GTX car, and that I'll probably do. I was out at Maple Grove last year and got some really good reference pictures of an old Warren Johnson Oldsmobile, so that'll help tremendously. We'll go from there. We'll see how this one turns out. I get a lot of compliments on the headers. People are like, how'd you do the headers? How'd you do the headers? I'm like, started out with some Alclad, well, black, and then started out with some Alclad aluminum, and then went with some pale gold, and then copper, and then hit it with some transparent yellow, and then came in with some flat clear with a little black in there, and just kind of gave it the heat stain to it. It sounds easy to do, and it relatively is easy to do, but it takes a little bit of practice to get it, we'll say, realistic or as close to realistic as possible. So I did have a few people comment on the Lucas C's page, like, why ain't they chrome? Why don't they have purple and blue? And I'm like, no. Have you ever seen like racing headers, like what they look like in a real car? Like they're not chrome. Like they are, but then when you heat cycle them, they change colors. You know, this is what they look like on a race car. So, but again, we don't all build on the same level. We don't build for the same reasons and all that good stuff. And sometimes it's funny. Like that page is great. That page is great, and it's annoying all at the same time. If you ever get bored and you just want to laugh or shake your head at something, it's a great place to go to. There are some good builders on there. Like I had Luca reach out to me and give me a little bit of shit, and he's like, "You're a smart ass." I said, "Yeah, I can be." I said, you know, him and I talked for like 2.5 hours, and it was a good conversation. We talked about a lot of different stuff. But I think there's a lot of bad information on there. There's a lot of good information, and I think there's people on there that just try to be funny for whatever reason. I'm like, there's people on here like asking legit questions. Like they're actually looking for advice, and you're giving them some poor advice. And I'm like, why? Like, what do you have to gain from that? And I've gotten a little wordy. One of the guys on there, Lewis, who's the guy that's the paint guy? That's not Dings, is it? Who's the paint guy on Luca's page?
I
You know what I'm talking about.
I can't think of his name right now.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right? So this dude's like the paint police on there. Like he'll hammer the shit out of everybody that uses Rust-Oleum. And I'm like, I get it. You know, I get it. But again, you got to go back to that. And then he made a comment towards me one day. He's like, dude, I'll paint circles around you. And he just like left a laughing emoji. I'm like, you're a good painter and all, but when it comes down to it, like, if don't, I'm not looking for any trouble. I'm not looking to start any trouble, but I don't mind. I'll engage, which is probably something I need to stop doing. Because it's, it takes away from building. Yeah, it takes away from building. But again, it's the ego in you that kind of doesn't let that go. But anyways, there's a lot of bad advice, and the detriment to me is he has a lot of people on that page. There are a lot of people on that page. What's he have, like 130,000 members or something, Lewis?
It's up there. It's the biggest model group on Facebook for sure.
I'll
So
say
Wow.
Justin was pointing out, and it's not just Luca. There was well, maybe it is. I don't know. There used to be a Facebook group that was just called Model Cars. It wasn't attached to Model Cars magazine. It was just Model Cars. And before Luca started his, it was 30,000 plus. It was the biggest one at the time.
yeah,
And Justin is just saying he's never seen so much really, really bad advice given out with absolute authority as he does on Facebook groups.
Yeah.
It's something about the large groups, and it's probably because they're so large and you can't police it, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But
yeah,
and I don't know if it's people just giving bad advice because they're screwing with people. Because sometimes the advice you see seems like it's maliciously evilly
yes,
bad. Like
yes,
you're suggesting things that are going to screw this guy,
yep,
and you're doing it. I don't know for the laughs or what, but that's just I don't understand what that's about. It's like it's the larger the bigger the group is, the dumber the population seems to get. It's no, which isn't what I mean to say, but it's just the advice that's given out. It's a simple question: what should I
yeah,
use to do this thing? And you're given 72 answers.
Yep.
One person has the right quote unquote answer or the one that's the most correct for the application, and then that person is roundly ignored, and everybody else goes off on this a
yep,
100 comment thread, and it's just like the guy, nobody actually answered what the guy asked except one person,
yep,
and he was
yep,
just
yep,
like, oh no, we're not paying attention to him, screw you.
Well, it's
100%,
hard to click on their
100%.
profile, see their work. If you just do that, you'll see who can steer you in the right direction on what you need
Yep.
to do.
And that's another really good point too. Is people making comments, look to see what they've done in the past, and give you an idea if they actually know what you're talking about, what they're talking about. Um, I feel bad for people that get hung up on that, and then they're like 2 days later, like, what do I do to strip the paint? I'm like, oh man, well, no. But there's a lot of good advice out there. There are a lot of good pages. I do find I'm on pages all over the place, like some of the GT3, GTP pages, a lot of the European guys. Um, the Acme page is awesome. Like everybody that builds on that page is super nice, and they do fantastic work. There's no drama, there's no BS on that page, and I absolutely love it. Um, a lot of like I said, a lot of European pages, they do phenomenal work, and they're some of the most helpful people out there. So last year, I bought a Techno model 575 Ferrari GT that ran at Le Mans. So kit was already started, as the body was painted, everything else was there. It didn't have any decals. Guy had it on the shelf for like $35. I was like, you take 25? He's like, no, I'll take 30. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna be mad. And he's happy, I'm happy. Come home, start doing some research on what car I want to build. So I posted on the GT3 page, and some guy from Italy's like, I have decals for this car, and it was one of the cars I wanted to do. I said, well, what do you need for the decals? Like $50 shipped. I'm like, sold. Sends it over to me. I scuff the body, paint it, and to me, it just came out gorgeous. I mean, it was fantastic, and everything just worked out. And that page was great. Awesome help, no BS, no. Well, why don't you do this, or why don't you try that, or this, that, and the other thing. Guys like came through like that, and um, you know, I was really appreciative, and I even sent him a message. I'm like, dude, I appreciate it. He's like, yeah, man, no problem. If there's anything else I can do for you, let me know. I'm like, great. Back to what the hobby really should be, modelers helping modelers. So, very happy, very, very, very pleased with everything, the whole turn of events with that. So, Yeah, being a Porsche guy and having more Ferraris than I do Porsche doesn't make sense, though, does it? But I have an affinity for Ferraris too.
That was my favorite part of Alpha Model sort of blossoming into existence was that, you had the Revell Ferraris, which, once you deal with the 4x4 ride height that those kits have,
Yes.
and then, to me, obviously had the high-end Ferraris, the FXXs and the little Ferraris and stuff like that. And then Fujimi made the F12. And then, of course, Ferrari's licensing got really expensive and really complicated. And all the major kit manufacturers said, nope, we're done. And having somebody step into that void and be like, hey, here's all of the Ferrari road cars since then.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hesitated for a while because I've gotten, I've dealt with, how should we say, the United States resin industry as it was, and some of the less than fantastic products that you're going to achieve through that realm. And I finally jumped. I can't remember what the first one was I bought, and it's $160. It's a lot of money for just one box of little thing, and it was so just perfect, as with the detail and all the extras that you get in that. Obviously it's multimedia, so you get that kind of stuff, but just it has decals and it has photo etch and all the crap that I would have to go buy extra anyway if I was going to build this. Build it. If you're going to build the Tamiya supercars, you got to go get either Tamiya carbon fiber, Studio 27's carbon fiber, and go get somebody's PE for it and all that stuff. All that stuff's in one box, and it's like sold. And then it was a process of going back and trying to, because James was around for this, of going back and trying to rebuy all the stuff that I missed because I hadn't bought until about 13, 14 kits into the series. I eventually got around to it. But yeah, I was having that. I am, I've got my stuff that's all like 50s, 60s muscle cars, but I am a sucker for some European supercars.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up on Commodore 128s playing Test Drive, and that's all 80s, 90s supercar stuff right there.
So one of the coolest things I found with the PZY F40, I didn't realize how many decal options they gave you with that kit. Like you get this little box, you think it's just gonna be the car, the instructions, all the other stuff, maybe a decal sheet. Dude, you got the carbon fiber sheet in there. You got 4 or 5 different liveries in there. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. This is well worth, the $160 for the kit. There ain't so many kits that give you options. I mean, even if you go out and buy aftermarket decals, so me being a drag slot car guy and stuff like that, like I know Gene from Slicks, and I'm like, dude, there's times where I got to go buy like 2 or 3 sheets just to do a car, so I can get all the decals I need to do the car. That shit gets expensive after a while, and then all the contingency stuff to go with that. Then you get a kit like that's got umpteen options in there where you're not going to get bored. You're probably going to struggle like flipping coins, which one you want to do. That's the plus side of it. Yeah, it has a higher price tag, but like you said, you go out and get the photo etch, you get the carbon fiber stuff. On a kit, you're probably looking at the same price or more, depending on where you want to go with it. Pros and cons with everything, though. I can't even really say with Tamiya kits you get full detail kits anymore because a lot of it's just like an engine cover in a curbside kit, so to speak. So it's not really much different.
Unless it's a reissue of an 80s kit.
Yeah. Well, when they came out with the one of my favorite kits from Tamiya is the NSX kits, like the Castrol, the Ray Brig,
the race cars.
Yeah. Those were some of the coolest kits out there. So the next version of that car, the newer version, I think it came out like 2004, 2006 or something like that, where it had the metal plate and it was a curbside kit and the price went up like double.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, you had so much potential here. And then you just kind of just gave it a metal plate and made it a curbside. Because I don't even think you can see anything in the canopy. I think it's just like, or the engine cover. It's just solid body color and whatnot. I'm like, man, I'm not paying $65 or $70 for a curbside kit when I can go out and spend 30 or 35 for the older version and have it full detail. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
So, at that particular point in time, I wasn't a big fan of Tamiya because the prices went up. And then they came out with the FXX, which I bought one of those. I knew a guy at Hobbytown. He hooked me up with it because I think when they came out, they were like 70 or $75. I think I paid like 50 for it. And awesome kit, really tricky to build. But the end results was awesome. I don't even have it anymore. I don't know if I sold it or if it got broken and moving, but that was a really fun, difficult build, and it was a nice kit, very engineered very well. So I don't take anything away from Tamiya when it comes to quality.
Now, we were just discussing this in another group that I'm in, that people don't realize, because most people, modern Tamiya, you get 1-2 releases a year. One of them's a new one of them's something like the GR Supra Street Custom, right, as one parts runner of new wheels and stuff, and it's not really a new kit. And if you go back into like the 90s and early 2000s, Tamiya had an operating group in Europe, and both of those operating groups ran at the same time. There are some points in the late 90s that they were putting out like 14, 15 kits a year.
Yeah.
Because
And
the European group did all the F1 cars, all the DTM cars, all of the touring stuff, the Volvo touring that's up here behind me, all those things. And then the Japanese guys did the Super GTC stuff, all the Japanese street cars and all that stuff. Like there were, and then 2005, 2006, somewhere in there, they went, oh, die-cast chassis, everything's a curbside. You get 3 model kits a year if you're lucky. Like, I don't know what that.
Yeah,
what
I mean,
caused that, but
but even look at the American companies and stuff like that. Like they're really like your level 4 or level 5 was like a level 2 or a level 3 like 25 years ago. That they've become really simplistic with a lot of their stuff. Like with the NASCAR stuff, probably 2006, 2007, they started like implementing a lot of the snap together stuff into their glue kits. So I'm like, well, this is bullshit. Like the parts, like the headers and the rear end and the suspension was all like one piece. And I'm like, you're taking away a lot of the fun and the detail out of this stuff. Was it that the market was changing? The there was a younger generation getting into it, or people just didn't want to deal with the tougher builds, so to speak. I don't know, but there's a lot of the model car companies about 2005 or so they started simplifying some of their kits, and I'm like, well, this ain't any fun, and it doesn't look like what they used to. You know, I lost a little interest on that, and then just started switching my subject matter into things that add a little more detail to them and were a little more complicated to give you a better sense of satisfaction after you're done with the build.
well, at the risk of sounding ageist, I think there's obviously a bell curve to the hobby, and a lot of the primary demographics are in a situation now where they probably do want a simpler build than going full tilt on everything. So the all of the Craftsman Plus stuff, that's the curbside, basically an unassembled promotional model. Whoop, there he went. Is
Phone just died.
a lot of that stuff I think is just because that's what those were originally, and I think there comes a point where you've built a whole slew of really, really complicated kits, and you just want something simpler.
Yeah,
and all of the American kits have sort of consolidated over the years, right? This Revell and Monogram merged back in the 80s, and then AMT and MPC, they merged in the late 80s, and then everybody got sold 10 times since then, and should just be lucky they exist at all, Lewis. That's the problem.
Hey, I like that they're coming back out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think that they're as like a full detail kit. No, but they're still going to charge us the same price.
I think there were 2 videos I saw this week, and admittedly I skimmed through them both and didn't really watch them. There were people going to Hobby Lobby and they complaining that the prices had gone up. Well, yeah, there's your tariffs. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
What are they up to now?
They're in the 40s.
40
I mean,
list
yeah,
price,
we
and then they'll do the 50% off.
yeah, 40% off thing. Yeah,
40,
I mean, it's yeah. I think something that a lot of people don't realize is that 40% off a higher price is more money off. You know, 40,
Christian
40,
texted me, said he got button happy.
and I say 40%. Oh, here we go. 40% off something
Sorry.
that's yeah, no worries.
You should be.
40% off $40 and 40% off $20 is, you know, it's more money off $40. It's gonna, I don't know. But because we had talked about it in our little group chat we do for the podcast when the tariff stuff started popping up, that the prices on at Stevens International, so that's you're going to be your like retail pricing, was around $35 for a round 2 kit, and then it went up to $38, and now it's at $42. And it's like, I don't know what you thought was going to happen. Was round 2 going to eat that money? No, they don't have the budget to eat that money. They can't just be like, hey, yeah, everything costs $10 more a kit now, and we're just going to absorb it for the good of the hobby because we're St. Mary's Children of the Hospital poor over here.
Yeah.
No, that was going to come through to you guys, and now and this is something that you know, I could go off on an hour tangent about. After hearing about how expensive import kit costs are, I can't believe they charge $40-50 for a model kit. Well, yeah, guess what? Now your 60-year-old, you know, 63 Ford Fairlane also costs $50. So yeah.
But that here's the flip side of that too. Like I said, I had mentioned before, like there's still good kits out there from the past, you know, the 80s, the 90s, and stuff like that you can get relatively cheap.
Oh yeah.
I actually prefer some of the 80s, 70s, 80s stuff because I like the plastic better. It's not soft. It's not the recycled stuff that they use now. You know, there's people that will say, it's brittle, this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, I guess, but what are you doing that you're
breaking it,
breaking
right?
the body? Like, what are we doing here?
Stoners.
I don't like the newer bodies because they react differently to paint. Like, you can hit some of those 80s, 70s, and 80s bodies with some hotter paint and it doesn't distort it. It doesn't etch the plastic like some of the new stuff because it's soft. You know, you hit it with even some of the primers. Like I asked Lewis earlier what he used to reduce the paint that I got from him. It's just regular urethane reducer. And it started ghosting lines in the body that I painted. And it's my fault. It's not his fault because I didn't let the primer set up long enough. But you know, even when you do like some of the House of Color stuff on the newer plastic, even if you do prime it, it's that hot that it has the tendency to etch some of the plastic. I'm like, nah, I'd rather have some of the older stuff. It's a lot nicer to work with. But again, my personal preference. If people have the ability to shop online, make friends with other modelers and stuff like that, those kits are still available to build at lesser prices than what some of the newer kits retail for that are reissues.
Yeah.
So
I've often said that a bunch of the stuff that round 2 has reissued I don't need because I still have the original ones.
Yeah.
From the 90s. You know, I don't need it. I've replaced a few things because I've needed new decal sheets, but yeah. We as builders, all of us in this sort of age demographic are in a unique place because we grew up right when the model companies stopped destroying things to make new ththings. There's
Right.
very little except the annual kits, right? You can't go back and buy an 85 Firebird because they modified that forwards, but a lot of the standard kits that existed that were made in the 80s and the 90s, well, yeah, we can still go buy those because they'll never go away because the 69 Camaro, you know, tooled up in 88 or whenever it was, it still exists today, both in the original version and the 14 different ways you can get it after that.
Yeah, it's been reissued so many times. That and what was it, the Monogram 32 Ford? I think both of them have been reissued like 12, 13, maybe 15 times. So I'm like, all right, you know, When I see like round 2 coming out with stuff, I don't get excited about that because it's like stuff that you can already get for the most part.
Yeah.
Mobius, on the other hand, a little bit different. I haven't built anything for Mobius yet, but they give you some different options that are a lot better quality than your Revell and your AMT MPC stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I have one here. Maybe I'll get to it sometime in the future. But from what I've seen in the build-ups, they look really good.
The thing you have to watch for Mobius is that things will randomly be warped.
Yeah.
This is a frame out of a 65 Ford, and not only is it warped in, but it's also warped down, so it's warped on 2 planes at once. Now, obviously, I could fix that, but like it's a nearly $40 model kit, and it's that one's more or less brand new. Shouldn't be a problem, but if you go
Just
digging
remember, you're a modeler, not an assembler, right?
I am a modeler, not an assembler. It's just it's almost every Mobius Ford truck kit you buy will have a warp part to it. Hoods are almost always warped. The frames are almost always warped. The short bed pickup trucks, the inner fender wells are almost always warped. And it's like, fix it.
Damn.
It's like, fix it, guys. You know it's a problem. It's been a problem for 10 years now. When everybody got the ramp beds, and the ramp beds were a disaster of warpage when they first originally came out, they actually had to go back and they did fix those. It's like, come on, guys. I expect a certain level of quality.
That's fair. That's fair.
My argument with assembler versus builder, because I hate that whole thing in general, but is often I have enough things that I want to do to this model of my own volition that I don't want to fix your screw ups from the factory.
Yeah, I got a friend that it doesn't matter. Like he'll build some of the same stuff that I do, and be like, this kit's trash. This kit's trash. I'm like, okay, well, no kit's gonna be perfect. Like none of them. So he has a Model Factory Hero Ferrari 488 GTE, and I built the same kit. And he's telling me about this, that, and the other thing. The biggest issue I had with that was the roll cage they give you is white metal, and I'm like, all right, it's all mangled up to begin with. I'm like, there's soft parts, I get it, heat, whatever, handling, bouncing around in the box might distort it. So I gave it the old college try and set everything up. So I get one side of the roll cage to line up with the top of the halo, and then the other side of the roll cage, the passenger side, was way, way off. And I messed with it probably for about an hour, and it just wasn't working. I was like, okay, I'm just going to go out and get me some 80 rod, and I'm just going to build the roll cage myself. I'm going to use what I have here for reference. I'm just going to build it myself. I think the cost of the kit was like $230, but the price didn't matter to me. Like I didn't care. It was just like badass car. I want to build it. And he complained to me. He's had his on the table now probably for about 4 or 5 years, and he still hasn't finished it yet. He's like, so close. And he's like, what issues you have? I said, well, I had a lot. There's a lot of things that don't fit. You got to bend the white metal parts to fit. And I just built the roll cage. He I don't think he either doesn't have the patience or the ability to build the roll cage. It's not hard, but it is a little time consuming. And the end result, in my opinion, is great. It's way better than the one that came in a kit, and you don't have to mess with it as much, in my opinion. So I'm interested to see him finish his up and see what he comes up with. It's a good kit. It's a fun kit. It's a little tricky. It's not one of the full detailed kits where you have to, take the subframe and solder it all together. It's just basically a block of resin with some photo etch parts, and I think it has cast metal wheels on it. So it's a good kit, but it's a little tricky. But I have some other Model Factory Hero kits that are full detail, and I'm dreading. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm dreading at the same time, man. it's almost like they have different levels of their kits. Like they got the 1, 2, and 3, and the 3's like you need to be an engineer to do the third one because the instructions are so involved, and you have to drill so many holes, and everything has to line up just so. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to do that, but they make some of the coolest subject matters all the way from, well, I don't know, I guess the 40s or 50s all the way up to some of the current stuff. So, little scared. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little scared of some of the kits that I have from them. So maybe someday.
So I had a friend of mine who had a bunch of the 1/12 MFH stuff, and there's so much white metal in those bigger full detail kits that he actually went out and bought one of those magnetic tumblers. It's like, I am not cleaning this white metal by hand. I'm not doing that. I'm going $100 investment. I'm going out and buy.
Yeah, they're no joke, man. They're no joke. So I did a Aoshima longtail, McLaren longtail, F1 longtail, and I loved it. So I first started out, I was going to do the Lark car. It's the Lark. I don't know how familiar you are with that stuff.
He is.
The fluorescent pink one with like the gunmetal. So I went out and I got gravity paint. I didn't know any better at the time. I didn't know the Spain version was way better than the American version. And I sprayed the body. I didn't touch it. I left it on the paint stand. I come back to hit it with 2K clear and it fish-eyed everywhere. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? Like, I'm not going to strip it. So I went out and bought another kit, and I ended up doing the red, white, and yellow version of it. And I was upset that I didn't get to do the Lark version because I really like that. So I actually went out and bought the MFH Lark Longtail, and that's like completely full detail. All the side panels come off, the back, the front, like the monocoque's completely separate from everything else. And I'm like, not yet, not yet, not yet. So, but it's a really, really cool kit. A lot of detail into it, a lot of time, a lot of patience are going to be required for that.
But Model Factory Hero kits are not out of the box builds.
No, definitely not. So I bust Lewis's ass every now and again because he likes to build some of that, muscle car stuff that's not really involved and shit like that. And I keep trying to get him to build something a little more involved. And he's like, yeah, I'll get there. I'm really curious to see what he's capable of doing, like what he does on, the stuff that he builds. That he wins all kinds of shit when we go to shows, and it's just sickening sometimes. But I'd like to see him step up his game a little bit and get a little more involved with some detail work.
I'm gonna get me one of those Model Factory Hero kits. I just haven't
It
wanted to
doesn't
spend
have,
the money for the ones that I want.
no, I get that, dude, and it is an investment. I mean, the ones I got are $250 plus. It is an investment. It's got to be something you really love and you really want to build. I don't blame you for that.
Hey, you get some of those 1/12 scale kits. They're a house payment.
Yeah, $700, $800. Some of them $1,000. Yeah, buddy. But I don't know. I like giving Lewis shit because he's a good builder. He's a young guy. He's passionate about the hobby, and it's good to see younger people being involved in it. Him and I travel to shows, semi frequently. We were out at the Columbus show, and he did pretty good. I ended up doing pretty good. I was a little on the fence though. I was like, what the hell? I started packing up my stuff and I ended up winning something. I was really surprised because I wasn't sure. You know, I was happy, but this guy here seems to clean up everywhere we go. So I don't know. Maybe I need to learn something from him.
As I think all three of us that were there took home stuff.
Who else went?
James Tester was there.
Oh, oh shit, that's right.
Yep.
Good Lord.
Oh,
Yeah, that's how bad my memory is. I'm sorry, man. My memory sucks sometimes. But
He's very forgettable.
For a small show, that was a good show. There was some nice stuff on the table, and I didn't really talk a whole lot, but the vendor room was pretty good. I did end up spending some money there, and I was okay with that because I didn't spend a whole lot, but that was a good trip. When's the next show we're gonna go to, Lewis? I don't even know.
I actually was going to ask you if you wanted to do the IPMS Nats down in Virginia.
When's that?
August.
Yeah, so first week of August, or well,
I
first
could
full
probably
week of
swing
August.
that. If you want to go, I could probably swing that.
I think that's like a 4-day thing.
Yep, starts on a Wednesday, goes through Saturday. If you enter stuff in the contest, you have to be an IPMS Nationals member, so you have to join the IPMS, and then you cannot take your stuff back until Saturday night.
Whew.
I don't know about all that.
So I mean, you
So
don't
you
have to put it
gotta
on.
go-
You don't have to put it on the table till Friday afternoon.
Oh,
But
okay, okay. All right, that's a little different.
I say, but you cannot take it until after the awards ceremony on Saturday. So
That's not
So-
terrible. I mean, I can leave probably Friday morning and come home Sunday.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if we got to be there Wednesday, I'm like, nah, I got other things I want to take vacation
I'll be there
for.
Wednesday, but you don't have to actually have it at 1:00. I think is the cutoff. Well, Friday, I'd have to go look, but
I mean, I'm cool with leaving Thursday night and getting down there.
I might be able to do that. Works pretty easy going. Like I had an outing a couple of weeks ago, and I said, hey, I'm looking for like 6 days off the rest of the year, and I was like, I'll even come in and work Saturdays if I can. Be like, no, we can't let you do that. Just let us know. I was like, all right, cool. So I don't think that'd be a problem. I'd be into that. And you say what? Virginia Beach?
Yeah.
Hampton on the other side of the river.
I don't care. I'm cool with that. What's it like? 4.5 hour drive for us? Probably shorter for you, but
Probably about 3.5, 3 for me.
yeah, I'll meet you down at your place and we can just head down from there.
Come on,
August,
James.
week in August.
Yep.
Let's
How long
go.
did it take to get to Virginia?
For me, it's 8 hours door to. Well, I'm staying in Virginia Beach because I'm taking my whole family, and we're making like a week out of it, so we're going down ahead of time. So for my door to the actual ocean, it is 8 because we're renting.
Man.
We've got a I almost said bed and breakfast, but what should we call it? A rental house.
Airbnb?
Airbnb.
Airbnb, so not Verbo, the other thing. Yeah, we got an Airbnb for the week because like we went to Texas for IPMS Nats there, flew down, and like trying to stuff 4 people in a hotel room for a week is just a pain. I'm like, no, a house. Give me a house.
Yep.
Buy groceries, cook dinner, not eat out every day. So
Right.
yeah, I'll be down there because
Sweet.
I judge, so I have to be there.
Sweet. All right.
That's
So
all right.
do we hand you 50s now or what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. But
No, I don't.
I'd say for you guys will be what? Boyerstown and then Acme.
Yeah, we'll have Boyerstown.
Unless you're coming across to Pittsburgh from the end of September, but I wouldn't make that trip myself, and I live 30 minutes away. So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, is the show decent? Is it worth it? I mean,
well, you know what? Without going off on a 5-hour tangent, like the show, the club that runs it has split off and divided like 4 or 5 times, and it did it last year right before the show, like within like 2 weeks before the show happened, and so they're really skeleton crewing the thing at this point, and there's maybe 150 models on the table. It's very much turned into a local. I'll drag James down because it'll be the only time I'll see him unless I go to Cleveland in November. But
Is your room worth it?
I don't know. If you've the people that were in Columbus are more or less the same people that are going to be in Pittsburgh. There's a traveling carnival of on this side of the mountains that are the same vendors that go everywhere.
Right.
I definitely plan to be back in the Buckeye.
Yeah, it was a good show.
I'll go to that again. That'll give me some extra time to finish up my stuff on the table here. I'd be into that. It's cool. Like just meeting different people. Even though you do go to the bigger shows like the Acme show, the NNL East and stuff like that, you see a lot of the same faces. You see, year after year, which is also, it's a good thing. You get to catch up, shoot the shit, but seeing other people that don't get to travel as much is also nice. Getting to meet new people and see what they do, and exchange notes and talk about your builds. That's always a good part of it. I actually got to meet Jim Drew for the first time out at the Columbus show. I didn't know him from anybody. I just kind of sat there and started talking to him. He introduced me, introduced himself. I said, "Oh, okay, that's great. Now I get to put the name to the face." Now he's like, "Yeah, yeah," shoot the shit with him for like 15 minutes. So that was pretty cool. He's a pretty good builder. He catches a little guff. One guy was like, "Oh, what's this? The Jim Drew page or something like that? It's just totally dedicated to him." Well, it's his page, so I guess there's a little bit of truth to that, So, but I did enjoy the Columbus show. My ass was dragging though when I came home because I got home at like 12:30 and I had to get up the next morning and go play hockey. So the whole next day I was trashed too, but it was a good time. It was well worth it.
So you make a good point. It was a discussion topic that got emailed to a lot of the other bigger podcasts that are out there of going to contest and feeling whether or not your work was worthy enough to be put on the table. And I know that Jason over at Blue Ox talked about it too. And one point that's one of the other podcasts brought up was don't consider, well, first of all, the reality of going to a contest and winning something is slim to none. Like you've got 15, 20 cars in a category. They're only giving out 3 awards. Chances are you're not winning anyway. Going there with the attitude that you're going to win something is just a recipe for a bad day. But the idea was that consider the models that you're putting on the table, going to shows and participating in the show, not just going to the vendor area, but actually participating in the show as being the builds are like a social currency, right? The 4 of us would not be here. Any of us would be here if we didn't know each other through our models.
Yeah,
like I know
right.
I met James before I met everybody else here, but like if you didn't go to the show and you didn't have something on the table, you didn't have something to discuss, you hadn't talked, like so many of everyone's friendships really wouldn't exist. Like you could be friends with people on YouTube and you could be friends with people on Instagram. You talk to these people through Messenger and stuff like that, but it's not the same as going out and talking to people face to face and establishing an actual relationship with people.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I there's a lot of people. One of the things I see on some of the forums is, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. Well, playing sports as much as I did growing up, you're only going to get better if you compete against people that are better than you. The online stuff is great. But I think using your interpersonal skills and communicating with people and getting to know them and building those friendships from, contest to contest, or at least just as a jump off point to start something is a good thing. I don't think I've met a modeler yet doesn't get excited to tell you about their build and how they did it as long as they're willing to listen.
Right.
I think that's what is the selling point for a show. Like I don't think people look deep enough into that. They overly concern themselves about what their project is. Can they compete? And you go to a contest, you see all levels of builds, from the juniors to people that may not have the hand dexterity to do things, to the master builders and stuff like that. So you get to see the whole gamut of things. And I really encourage people not to get discouraged by thinking that they're not good enough to go to a contest for whatever reason. I was one of those people too until I went, and I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Because now you kind of see where you're at in person. Like you have a side by side comparison to see where you're at and what you can improve upon. And again, back to talking to other builders, like I haven't met one that's not willing to have a conversation with you about what they did, how they did it, where they got their materials from. So there are some quirky people out there in the hobby, and it's kind of like, I get it, you're kind of like on the upper echelon of popularity or notoriety in the hobby, and sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, like that celebrity type status. where you just kind of want to chill out and be left alone. I'm not one of them people. I don't know when to shut up. I'll talk to you for hours about whatever. A lot of times people have to walk away, but you know, it's a good thing. And I only say that because I'm passionate about what I do. Like, and that's everything, every aspect in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there should be no hang-ups with that. But we're all not geared the same. But I do stress that I think people should at least give it a shot to go out to a show and see what it's like, because there are really a lot of good people out there that you can gain a lot of knowledge from, and they'll point you in the right direction. It won't be some of this bullshit that you'll see in the forums that they give you bad advice about this, that, and or third. You'll get some genuine advice from people at shows.
Not only that, if you're worried about competing, you can find shows. Ricky started a thing with the model cars and coffee.
Yeah, that's a great example.
Popping up everywhere now. So you can find these shows that are absolutely no competition at all, and you still have the big names showing up. So they're there, they're hanging out. It's literally nothing more than a hangout session. So, you started those shows, and you can get tips, advice, everything there. And then if you decide you want to go compete, go try to compete. They've got to remember that everyone looks at these shows from a business standpoint of how many cars are on the table.
Yeah.
I just photographed for Auto Modeler for the Mid-Atlantic NNL, and the initial question that I got was, how many cars are normally on the table? And if it's not enough, they're not interested in shooting it. So you've got to have numbers up just to keep these shows going, for one thing.
That's true. Very true.
And we all were here before Lewis became famous. Remember us, Lewis. Remember us, the little people. Photographing shows, reviewing models, taking awards everywhere. We all knew Lewis before he was famous.
Look, the car that was the reason that me and you two met. Literally, you can ask Chris. We're standing at NNL East talking, and it popped up on the screen, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And he's like, "What?" And I pointed at the screen.
Which one was that? Was that this year?
No, that was 2 years ago with the little green coupe.
Yeah. That thing's slick, man.
That did make the screen this year, just for the wrong person.
Oh, that was funny though. That was totally funny. I loved it. Every minute of it. Every minute of it. That was great. But whatever.
All right. As we wrap up here, we ask the same question to the people, to the folks that we bring on the show here. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this, because it's always everybody. If I say Opus Magnum build, people look at me funny. So it's sort of that lifetime achievement, right? If Chris is going to be known by a certain model, or there's a certain model that you wanted to do, whether it could be a series of things, but is there a build or more that sort of is the one thing you'd like to do? This but whether you're not there skills wise yet or whatever the thing is, it's the one model that you want to build that you would be like, yep, that was the one that I wanted to get done.
One of the things I'd like to do would be scratch built Northeast dirt modified. That would be. I grew up on dirt modified racing. I still go to this day, and that would be one of the things that I'd like to do. They do a 3D printed version that it's okay, but to get down to the brass tacks of it, to do everything ground up would be fantastic. That would be my unicorn. That would be the thing that would probably define my skills.
There you go.
There you go. All right, boys and girls in the chat, we appreciate you joining us again for another episode of the Automotive Podcast. We want to thank Chris for coming on and being the guest tonight, and Lewis for tossing the assist while Sean is off being in the musicals business. To everyone, we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.